Originally, this video was supposed to be a rant because I did this a month ago when the Steelers were eliminated, and now the Eagles, they were supposed to be eliminated because all of the experts were saying so, but nope, not on this day. The Eagles smashed the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. That's right, we're here today, we're happy. Fly Eagles, fly! But of course, as everyone in America knows, the Eagles are coming off of a 40-22 demolition of the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. This is their second Super Bowl victory ever, which means that there was obviously another team before the 2024 squad to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. 7 years ago, the 2017 Eagles became the first team to ever win the Super Bowl in franchise history, defeating the New England Patriots by a final score of 41-33. From 2017 to 2024, this Eagles team has changed quite a bit. In fact, only 4 players on the Eagles 2017 team remained as players within the organization 7 years later. And this, of course, had me thinking, which of these Eagles Super Bowl teams was better? Today, I'll be comparing a number of categories in this video to determine which Super Bowl team was better. And of course, these categories include the regular season team statistics, playoff team statistics, team constants, total offense, and total defense, and I'll explain what each of these categories mean when the time comes. That being said, let's jump right into today's video. Regular season team statistics. This category factors in the overall team metrics from the regular season. We'll start, of course, with points scored. The 2017 Eagles scored 457 points during the regular season, while the 2024 team scored 463. This metric is, of course, a bit deceiving, as the 2024 Eagles played one additional game after the NFL added an extra week to the schedule starting in 2021. Using a points per game metric instead, the 2017 Eagles scored 28.6 points per game, while the 2024 Eagles scored 27.2. Both of these numbers are pretty solid overall, but due to the better number, the 2017 team gets the nod. As for points allowed, the 2017 Eagles allowed 295 points on defense, while the 2024 Eagles allowed 303. And again, this measure is a bit deceptive because of the extra game that was added, so we'll continue to use the points allowed per game metric. And in terms of points allowed per game, the 2017 Eagles gave up 18.4, while the 2024 team surrendered 17.8. So defensively, the 2024 team had the lower number, so of course they get the nod. That leaves the tiebreaker of this category, which is point differential. Point differential, for those that don't know, is a very self-explanatory metric. It is the difference in points scored and points allowed. So in 2017, the Eagles posted an 162 point differential, and in 2024, the Eagles posted an 160 point differential. The 2017 team is better in this metric even when we factor in the average margin of victory per game, because the 2024 team had a lower differential spread across more games. Ultimately, because the numbers are slightly better, I decided to give this category to the 2017 Eagles team. Playoff statistics. Sometimes the playoffs awaken a new fire in some teams. Like I mentioned earlier, the Eagles played one additional game in 2024 compared to 2017 because of different seeding. So we'll be using an average margin of victory to determine which Super Bowl team had the better postseason. The 2017 Eagles, who were colloquially known as the underdogs in the playoffs, beat the Falcons 15-10 in the divisional round before destroying the Vikings 38-7 in the NFC Championship game. In Super Bowl 52, they defeated the Patriots by a final score of 41-33. Despite the 2-1 score games, the 2017 team finished with an average margin of victory of 14.7 points per game, mainly because of that NFC Championship game. That may sound very impressive, but the 2024 Eagles were even more dominant in the postseason. In the wild card round, they sent the Packers packing with a final score of 22-10. Then they hosted the Rams and won their closest game of the postseason by a final score of 28-22. The Red Hot Commanders visited the Link next, and the Eagles put up 50 points or more in a single game for the first time since, ironically, 2017. They sent the Commanders home with their tails between their legs, trampling them 55-23 in the NFC Championship game. And finally, against the two-time championship defending Chiefs, the Eagles handed Mahomes one of his worst career games, smacking the Chiefs 40-22. Now, the 2024 Eagles may have played in one additional game, but they had 2 additional multi-score wins and a higher average margin of victory of 17 points per game in the postseason. In terms of playoff performance, the 2024 team takes the nod, and they even the score. The constants. How did each players on both Eagles championship teams compare in their 2 seasons with the team? As previously mentioned, 4 players were on both the 2017 and 2024 championship teams. These players are what I'm calling the constants, and we're going to start by comparing their 2017 and 2024 seasons to see when they performed better. We'll start with arguably the best of the bunch, Lane Johnson. The future Hall of Fame right tackle allowed only a 2% pressure on his pass blocking snaps and 0 sacks in 2017. His 2024 season was just as good, allowing a pressure on just 1.4% of his pass blocking snaps, and once again, 0 sacks. Really, you could go either way with Pave the Lane, but his 2024 pressure rate was just a little lower compared to 2017, though he had 2 phenomenal championship seasons. Jake Elliott and Rick Lovato also remained as constants from both Super Bowl teams. Elliott was a rookie in 2017, where he made just under 84% of his field goals during the regular season and scored a total of 117 points. In the postseason, Elliott was blemish-free, going a perfect 7 for 7 and making a long of 53 yards. However, 2024 was a notable down year for Elliott. He ended up scoring 131 points in 2024, which is better than his 2017 number, but his accuracy declined to just under 78% on all field goal attempts. The most notable area of decline was his accuracy from 50-plus yards. While Elliott was 5 for 6 from 50-plus in 2017, he only made one 50-plus yard field goal during the 2024 regular season, and it was from exactly 50 yards out. In fact, he ended up missing 7 of his 8 field goals from 50-plus yards during the 2024 regular season. While Elliott improved as time went on, his 2024 postseason performance was worse than the 2017 playoffs, going 10 for 11 and only making 1 field goal from 50-plus yards, and once again, that was exactly 50 yards in the Super Bowl. Even if he got better as the 2024 season went along, I'm sure Elliott would much rather prefer his 2017 rookie season. As for Lovato, he's a long snapper. I'm not sure how you measure a long snapper's production if I'm being totally honest, but according to Pro Football Reference, tackling stats for Lovato were tracked on a season-by-season basis, so I guess that's what we'll use. In the 2017 regular season, Lovato made 3 tackles, which was 3 more than he made in the 2024 regular season. He did have 1 tackle in Super Bowl 59, but it was the only tackle he made that season. I'm not sure if this is a completely fair assessment since long snappers aren't really supposed to tackle, but it's the only statistic I could find on Pro Football Reference, and his 2017 tackling numbers were better. Last but certainly not least, Brandon Graham is the final constant from both teams. Graham was much younger and healthier in 2017, playing in and starting 15 games in which he was also more effective. Everyone knows Graham in the City of Brotherly Love for his famous strip sack in Super Bowl 52. That basically ended the game, and that's where Graham made his plays, in the clutch. In Week 12 of the 2024 season, Graham tore his triceps in a game against the Rams, in which he was almost assuredly going to miss the remainder of the season, including the playoffs. Miraculously, Graham made a quick enough recovery to return to the Super Bowl and play snaps. However, he only started 1 game all year, and his age and injury history kept up with him and slowed him down somewhat. I would venture to guess that Graham would prefer his 2017 statistics rather than his 2024 ones, which means that most of the constants in this category prefer the 2017 seasons, so for that, I'll award this category to the 2017 underdog squad. Total offensive statistics. We've already talked about points scored per game, but that doesn't always tell the whole story. Let's go a bit further in depth and see some of the offensive statistics of both the Eagles championship teams. In 2017, the Eagles had the 7th ranked offense in terms of yards per game at 365.8. They finished 14th in passing offense with 248 yards per game, and 3rd in rushing offense with 132. Overall, they had a semi-healthy mix of the run and pass, finishing above average in both categories and in the top 25% overall. Both of these numbers are definitely respectable, as well as indicative of a team that can beat you offensively in any way. Of course, everyone knows the story of the 2024 Eagles. Saquon Barkley was the center point of this Eagles offense, and it showed in the statistics. He ran for over 2,000 yards, becoming the 9th running back in NFL history to do so, while winning Offensive Player of the Year for the first time in his career. While the Eagles ranked 8th in yards per game on offense, they had a slightly higher number, 367.2 yards per game, which is actually a yard and a half higher compared to the 2017 squad. The Eagles' offense ranked 2nd in rushing with an unreal 180 yards per game, but they finished 30th in passing with only 207 yards per game. Still, this version of the Eagles' offense finished in the top 25% of the league, just as their predecessors did 7 years ago. Overall, both of these teams ranked similarly across the league. Both were ranked near the top, though they weren't the best by any means. The 2024 team sold their souls for the run game, but they ranked poorly in passing. The 2017 featured a much more balanced attack, but they weren't overwhelmingly dominant in one area over the other. Ultimately, this was the hardest category to pick, but the 2024 team is going to get the nod. They had more total yards per game and featured one of the most dominant rushing seasons the league has ever seen, and it culminated, like I said, in an Offensive Player of the Year campaign for Saquon Barkley. Even despite being used somewhat sparingly, Hurts still proved that he can beat teams with his arm. Hurts also had better receiving room, with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith catching passes as opposed to Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith from a prime Carson Wentz or Nick Foles. Which leads us to one final category, total defensive statistics. They say that defense wins championships, and obviously for Philadelphia, this held true twice. But which team emphasized this concept more? The 2017 Eagles defense allowed the 4th fewest points in the league with 295, and the 4th fewest yards per game at 306.5 yards per game. They allowed 5 yards per play, tied for 6th fewest in the league, and their run defense was the best in the league at only 79.2 yards per game. 31 turnovers is also very solid on the year, and they also had a turnover ratio of plus 11 in the regular season. As good as the 2017 Eagles defense was, they did have a few blemishes. Their passing defense was below average, giving up 227.3 yards per game in the air, the 15th most that year. Comparatively, the 2024 Eagles allowed the 2nd fewest points in the league with 303, and the fewest yards per game with 278.4, which is over 28 yards fewer than the 2017 team. The 2024 Eagles also allowed the fewest yards per play at 4.7, down from 0.3 yards per play compared to 2017. The Eagles didn't have as strong of a run defense in 2024. It ranked 10th overall with 104.2 yards per game, but it did improve in the passing defense. In 2024, the Eagles had the league's best passing defense, allowing just 174.2 yards per game through the air, which is more than 50 yards fewer than the 2017 team. That said, their 26 takeaways was good for 6th best in the league, but it was 5 less than the 2017 number. But their turnover ratio of plus 11 actually matched their 2017 figure. Overall, while the 2017 Eagles defense finished better against the run and had more raw turnovers, the 2024 Eagles outperformed the 2017 team in virtually every other category on defense, so I'd say that they were the better unit overall. Thus, they get the defensive category. In conclusion, the 2024 Eagles won 3 out of the 5 categories in this video, and I'd ultimately say that based on my metrics, they were the better team of the 2 championship squads. While the 2017 team proved better in the regular season and had better seasons from the players who participated on both of the rosters, the 2024 team had a more potent offense and defense, as well as better performance in the postseason. That said, both teams were both very good in the modern era of football, and I'm happy that as an Eagles fan, I got to watch 2 Super Bowl championship teams represent my home city in my lifetime. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.